fill you with false hopes. They speak visions from their own minds.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Overwatch All-Star Roll Season 3. A little bit of a difference from the usual casting. It's just gonna be myself at the moment, a little bit lonely in the caster's nest, but we're gonna do our best. We've got a wonderful match for you lovely folks at home today. The New England Whalers versus Torbulance in the losers bracket. These teams, it's the last chance saloon, so they're gonna be fighting for a place to make it back into that winners bracket to fight out for the final title. I've actually had the pleasure of casting the New England Whalers before, and I'm gonna say now, keep your eye on Honey Badger, one of the supports. I've had the wonderful pleasure of seeing this guy in action, and unfortunately, I've run out of Honey Badger facts, so I can't actually keep throwing those at the camera as I've been so used to, but I can say right now, this guy is gonna put the absolute fear of Moira the side of Turbulence, although he may be a little bit hampered because we have seen the pumpkin patch, as I like to call it, coming on through, so quite a lot of heroes have been changed in pretty drastic ways. We've seen a little bit of a nerf to this double shield meta, and Dive is seeing this sort of resurgence, and already it's sort of hitting the tournament, having some sort of impact. The Winstons, the Divas, they've come out of hiding. They're able to just jump into these Sigma Orisa compositions and pummel the backline just from their devolving and just going straight for all of their enemy team and finding all of that Winston cleave damage, getting the primal up, and then just going absolute ham with those monkey fists. You've also seen quite a little bit of a rise in the Tracer. Really one of the ones that we've seen at the forefront of Overwatch in the ladder up until now. Been a little bit quiet on that front, but after that buff in, absolutely major. Tracer is definitely gonna become one of those DPS that you have to watch, especially if you're a Zen main like yourself. You always have to be watching your back, your front, your sides, because those Tracers, they're slippery little things and they'll come from all angles, especially now that their damage fall off now starts at 13 meters as opposed to that 10 meters. So if you're the McCree, you do have to remember that 13 meters is actually out of range of the flashbang. All of the traditional Tracer counters simply they don't really they're not up to par, especially with the break nerf coming in, as when Goats was as prominent as it was, the shield bash being not so much as impactful as it used to be, a little bit of a thing of the past, along with the support hero who's carrying that one. But it's gonna be Nepal that we're headed off to first, and this is definitely one of these maps where you can play pretty much of everything. It used to be that you would just grab an Orisa and a Sigma and hole up either on point or a little bit behind it and just have that little sort of shield battle between the two teams, trying to find some sort of early pick and then just swarm the enemy side. But I think with this new nerf coming in, especially with this Orisa barrier, the cooldown being increased that 10 seconds, you really are going to be punished if you try and go for that play. So we might see a little bit of the wackiness, a little bit of the Hammond rolling out of the spawn doors and on through the enemy team, a little bit like I'm picking up Wii Sports again for the 17th time. And just sitting on my sofa trying to find all of those strikes is exactly what those Hammond mains are constantly trying to do. And you know exactly what boops they're going for. You do have that map Sanctum, where if the Hammond manages to roll on through, Lucio's as well, you can find so many environmental kills. There's a little bit of a wait as we're just waiting for these two teams to get organized. New England Whalers, they say that their main support is taking a little bit of a snooze, got hit by one of those Anna Trank darts. I can tell you right now, you'll be feeling that one the next morning. So I don't know if they're playing with a ringer or if they managed to pull in their main support back into the lineup, wake them up the traditional way, either waiting for that sleep dart to come off cooldown or managing to get a little bit of damage into their backsides. But they've got 6 people in Turbulence. They've been sitting here. They've been waiting for this one to get along. These two teams, they're definitely going to be quite enthusiastic in how exactly they go into these matches, because they do know that everything is on the line. Whoever falls here will be out of the tournament for good. They're ready. I'm ready. Unfortunately, the map isn't quite ready, so we're still going to just have a little bit of it passed around over these patch notes, because it's one of the bigger patches. It took about a day and a half of the background downloads just to come through. We've seen so many buffs, so many nerfs handed around, and the kind of elephant in the room at the moment is the Doomfist, and the jury is still out on whether or not you're going to be able to get away with this DPS hero as much as you used to. You do have to remember that Rocket Punch has been increased. The match charge time is now 1.4 seconds instead of that 1 second wind up, which does give quite a lot of outplay potential into the enemy side. The Sleep Dart, the Zen trying to just get away around the corner so that he doesn't get slammed into next tomorrow by that Rocket Punch. It's definitely one to be keeping your eye on, and I've actually had a couple of teams come forward and say that they think that the projectile DPS heroes are going to be coming out of the woodwork. We've already seen a little bit of Soldier on the mech base in Busan. That was a very strange one where my co-caster said that it wouldn't find any value and then got immediately proven wrong after that DPS hero picked up, I believe it was a 4K straight off the bat. So Soldier, he's been a little bit quiet, but he's definitely seeming to wake up now. The Pharah as well, Pharmacy has always been not quite prominent, but just kind of a little bit of a shadow on the meta. You can run her as long as you have that Mercy to be able to pocket you, but you also do have to remember that you can get countered by pretty much anyone who can hit a headshot. So you do have to be careful playing that particular hero. As I say that, we're finally going to load into the map, and it's going to be not Sanctum, not Village, but Shrine that we're headed to first, and it's going to be Torbulance in the red and New England Whalers in the blue. These two teams, they're raring to go. This is a map where you can play pretty much anything. We might see the dive, we might see the traditional Sig Ori, we might even see a little bit of the Rhine Zarya. It has been coming out, a little bit of a 2016 Overwatch flavor. But it's been effective. We're seeing teams just making the most of this Orisa 10-second cooldown shield nerf and just walking past it and laying a shatter into the faces of the enemy team before they can recover, and finding so much value on that one. But as I say that, it's going to be Torbulance going for Vanguard on the Sigma with Noro on the Orisa, and on the other side, New England Whalers looking pretty much the same with this exception of the Pharmacy and the Hanzo on the going to be laying down a little bit of a crossfire, the DPS there. Whereas Torbulance, they're going for a little bit of the old, not quite the new, with this Doomfist and the Symmetra. I don't know whether Air is going to be sticking with this one or whether it's just the initial teleporter out of the spawn, but these two teams are going to be rolling out, and the Symmetra is going to swap off to the Reaper. Potato is going to have free reign of the sky at the moment as these two teams come into engagement, because there's nothing really to pressure that Pharmacy. They do manage to get the point first, the Turbulence, so there's going to be a little bit of a scuffle as New England Whalers just kind of poke in, maybe try and find a little bit of a pick. You do have the Orisa Noro falling to half HP, but it's just going to be Turbulence picking up 2 kills early. But on the other side, New England Whalers flipping it back, and the res does come on to Korean Snack, so they do still have this opportunity. But the point is getting over to Turbulence. They're going to have that first tick percentage. Potato 50% to the barrage, trying to build that one as quickly as possible. You know that there's going to be no chance of the Sign Barrier. Lures only on the 39%, but Tony does have this Coalescence, and it's going to be up, trying to keep the team alive, trying to kill the team of New England Whalers, and they're falling so fast. It's so much damage coming out. Honey Badger finally manages to pop a Coalescence of his own, and these Moiras, they are going to be trying to find some opportunity for their team. Potato does have the barrage. He's probably going to be looking to land that one in pretty soon, definitely before Lure is able to get up to the Sound Barrier, but he has to find some opportunity, some window before it shuts, and that is closing very quickly. Solar is going to open with the Flux, and the Dragon comes through and gets 4! So Biz picking up 4 with Potato, clearing up the rest. Korean Snack not wanting to stay quiet on the tank, going to be picking up the kill onto the Doomfist. Turbulence, they managed to get 42%, but New England Whalers flip it back with a really clever play. The Flux and the Dragon combined. Turbulence just not able to get out of the way of all of that damage. Lure is going to have the Sound Barrier. I'm going to be following along with that Lucio to see whether he manages to land it as Potato hits the barrage, gets the Moira out of the way, gets almost 3 of them out of the way. That is half the team of Turbulence dead. Unfortunately, Lure just wasn't able to get the Sound Barrier online. The reflexes just weren't fast enough, and Potato finds all of the value. Once again, Turbulence still sticking with this composition that they've been running from the very start. No one trying to pressure off this Farah and Potato is just finding all of the free reign at the moment. Nora does have the superchargers. Those are probably going to be used to initiate. Turbulence coming for the approach. It's going to be New England and Wales set up on the point. They have a supercharger of their own, and it's just going to be a scuffle on the point as both these teams put in ultimates trying to find the picks. Lure actually falls before he can use the sound barrier, and so New England Whalers opportunity. They're going to be swarming onto Torbulance, but they don't go onto the point, and the flip comes through, and now Air finds the pick onto the Orisa, and Biz gets the return onto the Reaper, though unfortunately he goes down, not being able to use that Death Blossom. It's going to be so much damage coming in on the side of Torbulance, but New England Whalers, they have the sustain, they have the healers up and alive, and Potato has the barrage online, finds it onto the backside of Nora. Solo is going to get the punch onto Vanguard, a little bit of a melee kill. Some nice little personal action there, and it's going to be Torbulance just trying to stall for as long as they possibly can. They don't want to commit any ultimates, they want to be keeping hold of these, and they do the right thing. They keep those cards so that they can use them in the next engagement. The flip did come through, so they do have 76% and still counting, because New England Whalers haven't quite managed to recapture it. So Torbulance managing to find quite a lot of value for something that they really shouldn't have won. It's going to be New England Whalers just trying to keep this point for as long as they possibly can. Solar does have this flux. Lure again hasn't been able to put the sound barrier to any use, to good use at all. Tony is probably just going to open up the Coalescence. It gets popped now. Keep your eye on the Sigma. He's going to try and get that flux off, but it's going to be Vanguard who opens it first, and that paves the way for Air to get the Death Blossom into the backline, and he's just going to get the 2 picks, the Moira and the Sigma, out of the fight, and this is just a wash of red in the kill feed. Zorus gets the pick onto the Doomfist, but that's just not going to be enough, and the flip comes through. New England Whalers, they do have ultimates to try and come into this next approach with, but it's still Lure sitting on the sound barrier, and he's been holding onto it for so long that I think he might have built up another one if he'd managed to commit it to the previous fights, but he has to keep a hold of it now. It's going to be up to this Lucier to bail his team out, as Potato does have this barrage, and Solar, he's going to just flux in immediately. The sound barrier gets pulled out, which means Potato is able to use that barrage, but he's just going to find the Sigma shift grasp, but Potato does manage to get the Lucier. It doesn't matter though. Torbulance still managing to pick up these kills. He's still managing to get the pick onto Korean Stack, but New England's Whalers, they're pulling it back. They're going to have all of the kills on their side, and they managed to clinch it just at the last moment. 87% on the board for New England Whalers, 99 for Torbulance. This is final fight territory for both of these two teams. Korean's not going to commit the supercharges. It's a little bit too early, and so Torbulance, if they're able to touch the point, that's one ultimate they're not going to have to worry about. There is going to be a contest. Tony does have the Coalescence, so there's going to be so much sustain, but not enough to keep Vanguard up. Finds the Sigma though, so this is still a fight. The res comes through. Solar back into the fight. Zorus not punished for that one. Nora has the supercharges of his own. Those are plunked onto the point, and Turbulence, they're just going to try and put so much damage into the side of New England Whalers. The Dragon comes through onto point. It's not going to find anything, but Potato gets the kill onto Esol the traditional way. Lure manages to get the pick off onto Biz. Potato getting the pick off onto Tony. Korean Snake getting the pick onto his counterpart, and this is slowly but surely going the way of New England Whalers, and that will be the first map set for New England Whalers. So Torbulance are definitely sort of feeling the burn of this latest patch, unfortunately, and I'm gonna sound really crazy because I'm most definitely talking to myself at the moment. So to you lovely viewers at home, it used to be that Sigma Shield could just be pulled out at the whim of the player. You could just put that up into the sky as a sort of umbrella of sorts from all of the damage that was coming in, especially with the regards to where the Pharaoh was playing, because the Pharaoh would fly up, the Sigma would shield, the Pharaoh would move, the Sigma would then move the shield to where the Pharaoh is. That simply just isn't allowed to happen at the moment because you have that 1 second cooldown, which means that Sigmas have to be very careful about where they put their shields, because it has to be in a place where the team is able to make proper use of it. And it's going to be Esol actually going on to the Pharaoh, so they do acknowledge the strength that this pharmacy is going to be having on Sanctum. It's going to be air onto the Bastion, so quite a lot of damage coming in on the side of Turbulence, but Esol falling so low already. New England Whalers, they seem to just be set up quite cozily, not really much damage coming in from them, and Potato getting the pick off onto the Mercy means that Esol is at such a huge disadvantage in regards to this pharmacy fight because he's just not going to have that pocket. The Orisa gets booped off by a lovely concussion blast from Potato as well, so at the moment it's just going to be New England Dwellers taking up residency on this point, and Turbulence forced to pull back. They lost their support, and I think Yes, no, this dagger is not going to come down onto the Bastion. They managed to save him. The Immortality Field is perfectly placed. Air is able to get out of the fight and disengage, but Potato already 89% to this barrage. He's going to be trying to just land it on the back, potentially onto Lur, who has just swapped onto the Lucio. There's going to be a little bit of a pause, but Honey Badger's damage orb does unfortunately pick off the Bastion. So if you're Turbulence, you just lost your Mercy. You're not going to have that opportunity for the res. You've actually swapped Isil off the Pharah and onto the Doomfist. I wouldn't really agree with this. I would say that you're better off trying to contest Potato with that Pharah. You need something to just make that particular DPS have to worry about how exactly they're playing, and Doomfist just isn't enough pressure onto a Pharah, especially when Potato has been playing the way he has, 92% to that barrage. Out of the fight is going to actually swap off, going to sacrifice the 45% of his ultimate meter and go for the Reaper, which again, it's a brawler. It's very much in the face composition, and the Pharah plays quite far away, nothing to pressure the DPS. Potato does have the barrage. A rock comes out from Vanguard trying to knock her out of the sky, but doesn't actually manage to land. Zora's just going to keep Potato up nice and safe and cozy in the sky, and it's going to be a little bit of a long flank coming from all the members of Torbulance, but that just means opportunity for New England Whalers to capitalize on all of those environmental kills, and Solar gets the pick onto Noro. So once again, Torbulance just forced to pull back, play a little bit passively, a little bit too passively, not really committing onto this point, not really trying to put in any much of a proper approach that you would expect. They do have this Lucio, the speed boost has been reverted to what it was in the heyday of GOATs, but they simply don't seem to be capitalizing on it, and they've waited a little bit too long. New England Whalers now have freed offensive ultimates up and online. The Dragon, the Coalescence, and the Barrage, soon to be a Flux, a Valk, and a Superchargers. And on the side of Turbulence, you've only got the Coalescence to work with. Air is finally going to swap onto this Pharah counter of the McCree, but I don't know, 86% on the board. It seems just a little bit too little, too late. The Dragon comes across the point trying to split all of Turbulence off it. Isil going to be taken out on the tail end of that one. The Coalescence is out from Honey Badger. Potato still hasn't even committed the barrage. He looks like he's about to go for it now, but he's just going to get the pick onto Nora the traditional way. Air is just dancing around the point, going to take Potato out of the fight finally, but the res comes in, and the Pharah is back in, and the barrage comes out immediately. Gets no picks, but it doesn't matter. The rest of his team manages to clean it up, and it's going to be Isil just trying to stall out. And unfortunately, Turbulence, they don't seem to be playing the counter game quite as fast as they should be. And especially on control points, you really do have to recognize what exactly is causing you to lose these team fights. Go back to your spawn ship, think about why it is that you've been sent back, and change your composition that you're running. And Turbulence, they seem to, at the very end, get an idea that maybe it's the pharmacy that they're just not being able to deal with. And they finally swapped to a McCree, but it's just too little, too late, and unfortunately, their stubbornness cost them that first map. And I do have to admit, Potato on the Pharah is something that isn't really unexpected. I've like I said, I've cast New England Whalers before, and it's definitely, I've seen this guy on the DPS picks, and he does favor this pharmacy. And now I'm gonna say that we're gonna be right back. We don't usually do this, but both the teams need a little bit of a rest, and I'm going to grab like 2 glasses of water. So I do hope that you'll join us after the break. hello folks, and welcome back to Overwatch All-Star Season Brawl Season 3. Pleasure to have you back. I'm Gut Moxie. I'm usually the color caster, but today I'm the jack of all trades. I'm gonna be your guide through this crazy world that is Overwatch. We've just got a new patch in, so everything is absolutely up in the air. Both of these two teams trying to figure out what's in and what's out right now. A couple opting in for the experiments of what's going to be coming into meta, and a couple falling back into the comfort picks of this Orisa Sigma shield. Torbulance going the way of that decision, and unfortunately sort of shooting themselves in the foot, not quite committing to the Pharah counters until the very last minute, and it's just simply a story of just completely unopposed pharmacy is essentially what the entire map over Nepal was. So I'm hoping for the sake of Torbulance that they're gonna have identified that, and that we'll see from the very beginning this time a Pharah counter out on the field straight away. They're managing to pull a couple of team fights back, so they're not quite completely out of the door, but if they don't clamp down on this pharmacy, then it's definitely going to be one hell of an uphill battle for them to be able to pull this back. It's going to be Anubis that we're headed to. Unfortunately, this is a map that the Pharah can actually be quite strong on once again, particularly point A, not so much point B. If you manage to get into the point B, then there are so much open areas that the Pharah just has so little opportunity to sort of hide as she manages to do on that approach on point A. There's just not enough high ground for her to kind of get around on that attack. The two teams will be swapping, so this is going to confuse both yourself and myself. Gonna be Turbulence gonna be coming into the blue, and New England Whalers freshly onto the red. As we go into Anubis, it's going to be New England Whalers on the attack. It's no surprise to myself that they're going to be opting for this one. Pharah is so much stronger on the attack in Anubis than she is on the defense. I talked a little bit before about how you can play her on that point A. There's a couple of lanes that you can try and get in from. Not so much point B if you're on the attack, because all of the enemy team know exactly where you're coming from. Anubis, one of these where we've seen a little bit of a swap and shift in how exactly teams are choosing to defend. We've seen a little bit of the Junkrat coming back into favor. A sort of 2016 Overwatch throwback to the good old era, before we had this free, before we had this you have to have 2 tanks, you have to have 2 supports. I know we all want to play 5 DPS, but it's simply not allowed to happen anymore unless you're playing the classic quick play. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see whether Turbulence are going to have adapted to what exactly they think New England Whalers are going to be throwing at them. I'm hoping that we're going to see, say, the Widow, maybe a little bit of Hanzo coming out from them. It's gonna be, unfortunately, it's gonna look like it's gonna be Air on this Reaper and Isil on this Doomfist. Biz on the Sombra on attack, probably just gonna be a little bit of a scout, try and find out what the defenders are gonna be running to see if they can swap Potato off this Genji and onto the Pharah. And from the way that Turbulence are deciding to commit to this defense, I would say it's highly likely that we're gonna be seeing that DPS swap come in, because you do have Tony on this Ana, but other than that, and Vanguard with this hook, which does have quite a big cooldown if you miss it. You do have the Roadhog's ammunition increased by 1. Not quite the biggest change, but it does mean that you're not going to suffer that embarrassment of getting the hook and then needing to reload quite as many times. Biz on this Widow, I don't know whether it's going to be permanent. Might just go for that little hook onto the spawn ship, see if you can get an early pick off, but they seem to be properly committing to this, and I'm a big fan. Potato on the Genji. Solar gonna go for the Sigma, so they're not committing to dive, but they are gonna have a little bit of a flanker, and Biz is probably just gonna be trying to set up onto this high ground. And at the moment, if you're Air, you're in a really rough place, because you're gonna try and teleport in and you're just gonna find a Widow bullet to the skull. Biz has actually set up on the high ground, but Potato is the one who opens it up for his team. Air is out of the fight, and Zorus is the only Mercy on the field, so Turbulence, no res opportunity up for them, which means that New England Whalers are probably just going to try and swarm this point. He still goes for a little bit of a punch, but he has to just slam right back into his team. The hook does come down onto the Orisa, but they don't manage to confirm the kill, and it's going to be all of Torbulance just hemmed up into this little room with New England Willis already setting up on the point, almost one tick taken. The contest finally coming through. The Nano does go onto the Roadhog, so they are going to be able to try and hold this point, but the anti is absolutely huge, gets both of the tanks out of the fight, allowing for Potato to just go absolutely ham with the blade, and it's going to be New England Willis just picking up all of these kills. Solar taking a well-deserved nap on the side, Biz getting a quick 2 on the support. And now if you're Torbulance, you really do have to try and think about how you're going to change something up, because Biz has to be contested, but they swap air off the Tracer back onto the Reaper, and it looks like they're just not going to settle into the sniper battle, and this is an absolutely huge mistake. But Biz gonna swap off onto the Sombra, so they're looking to break this double shield barrier with the EMP, which means that there is going to be a little bit of time built up for Torbulance to try and find some way to manage to make sure that this isn't going to be a snowball. But Esol going down is not the way you want your defense to start opening up. It does get the pickup onto Solar, but Zorus is there. The res is coming through. The team makes sure that it happens, and it's going to be all of New England Whalers around. The Rusty does go down and manages to get a pick onto Korean Snack, so maybe they're going to find a foothold. As I said, that they do manage to get the Sombra as well, but Potato picks up the Orisa. Lure getting the pick onto the Sigma, and Air getting the pick onto the Ana does mean that it's going to be New England Whalers forced back into the spawn ship, gonna be having to reset for another new approach. And now if you're Torbulance, you do have this ultimate, you have the supercharges, you have Lure coming into the sound barrier, you have to get it online soon, especially with Solar coming in, this Flux and Potato getting closer and closer to this blade. Surely with Honey Badger's nano up, it's going to be that toast that this Genji is going to be looking for, and Korean Snack does have these supercharges to make sure that it hurts. Esol gets taken out of the picture early. New England Whalers do have this advantage in numbers. The superchargers get committed. They know that they're at an advantage, and they're going to commit immediately. This Anti does come onto Korean Snack. He gets taken down because of it. Vanguard gets the pick onto the Sombra. So this might be New England Whalers just going back once more. There might be a little bit of a stagger going onto the supports. If you're Zorus, you're just trying to get out, but the Lure is just simply not going to allow it to happen, and Potato is going to be the only one who gets back to his spawn room still breathing. Esol does try and get that stagger pick, but he's simply too slow to confirm it. Doomfist not really one of the slowest heroes, but Potato in that instance is so much faster. Biz, however, has been building up this EMP like a madman. 96% on the board. They're going to have it to commit, and surely that's going to be going into the side of Lure to make sure that there is no sound barrier up for when New England Whalers decide to properly commit to this point and put in this nano blade, which is definitely going to be coming out any minute now. It's going to be up to Biz to make sure that Lure gets caught out, and Lure is definitely going to be just like hiding. He's in this room. He's already broken line of sight, but he's been found out. Biz knows exactly where he is. The nano doesn't comes out. Esol going to use the meter strike, gets the pick onto the Ana. So there is ultimates on the side of Turbulence, but through them they're managing to hold this point. Tony getting the pick onto Potato. So it's a little bit of a deja vu, but this time the teams have been flipped. It's New England Whalers who were sort of dancing around whether they're going to commit to this point. They do manage, however, to get some ultimates out of the side of Turbulence just by simply existing near this point. Air has been waiting on this high ground, looking for this Reaper play to just drop down on any unsuspecting support that might be unlucky enough to take that lane and put the Deathless member. He's found out by the Genji and has to rave out. It's gonna be this EMP that's definitely gonna be set up, and there it is! It gets the Lucio, and that is go sign for New England Whalers. But it's gonna be Lure who gets the pick off onto Solar, and the sound barrier comes out. There's just no commitment on the side of New England Whalers. Oh, they commit, but they just can't find the picks. Zorus gets the res onto Solar, but at this moment, you've lost a couple. Maybe it's a little bit of a stagger, but they're slowly pulling it back. Their two tanks are still alive, what with the res coming through. Esol is out of the picture, but they have to find more of this damage because Turbulence are just going to be coming back faster and quicker with so much more of a vengeance than New England Whalers are going to be able to handle at this rate. Esol getting the pick onto Potato, just going to make it that much harder to take control of the point. And New England Whalers put in so much, but they don't get any tick percentage for it. And now with your Turbulence, you have to feel happy with yourself. You've burnt the clock down to 1 minute 38. Vanguard has the Flux. There is no defensive support ultimate on the side of New England Whalers. So if you play this properly, Surely you're going to get a couple of kills off of that ultimate. Korean Snack does have the supercharges, but if you're the attacking side, if you put the supercharges down, the defenders do have the option to just turn tail and run, disengage from the fight, hide from the line of sight, and wait that ultimate out. But they unfortunately commit just a little bit too strongly. The supercharges gonna be going down on the side of Noro, and it's gonna be New England Whalers who are just taking all of the damage. They tried to get in that side room, but they just weren't able to get a foot through the door after Noro ulted, and it's going to be still Torbulance holding on to this point. No tick percentage given up, and if you're New England Whalers, things are really looking grim. You tried the Nano Blade, you tried the EMP, you still haven't found any way to break through this point B defense that you seem so strong to be able to deal with on point A. Air is coming up to this Death Blossom. He's once again trying to get this play, hiding on the high ground, waiting for them to come in. Gets halted off it, actually. So is he going to commit? Thinks about it, but the Coalescence comes out from Honey Badger, surely going to dissuade that from happening. But it's going to be Vanguard who pops his ultimate, pulling them all up in that seismic slam, but no kills coming from it. Korean's not gonna put down the supercharges. It's Air who finds them though, takes that one off the table. Solar gets the pick off onto Air, and it's finally gonna be New England Whalers trying to set up another presence on point B. Tony pulls out the Coalescence lure. Again, the soundbar is so much sustain coming on the side of Turbulence, and New England Whalers, they just simply don't have anything to really answer from it outside of soundbar. It's gonna be a brawl to the death. They have to manage to find some sort of percentage on this fight because it's the last fight territory. It is the last fight. Overtime is ticking down, but New England Whalers seem to have been able to finally open this fight up, get a little bit of presence going. Potato getting all of the picks. Gonna have built this Death Blossom up, and if you're Turbulence, the swap onto the Rhine comes in, but you're just gonna be charging straight into a Reaper who's ready to press Q in your face. Not even going to commit it, and the point gets taken. New England Whalers finally in the last hour managed to confirm that. And it's going to be Torbulance who will have to a little bit shaken and wondering how exactly things fell apart. They had looked so good, they had looked so strong on this point B defense. And then as soon as New England Whalers really managed to actually get past this choke, managed to get through one of these lanes and get onto that point, things just fall apart for Turbulence. And now you're left on your attack wondering, you have to take the point, you have to get the full 2 points. Yes, in overtime, so you don't really have to set that strong of a time bank, but you still have to do it. And from the way that New England Whalers have been playing and how Turbulence have just been refusing to go for these counter picks, I am a little bit worried that it's going to be a little bit of the same story and that we're going to be seeing from Potato this pharmacy, which once again is just going to go completely uncontested. But Potato isn't going to be on the Farah. Potato is actually going to be on the Bastion, and so this is a little bit of something that we're familiar with. This is the Bastion bunker with the Batiste, but Honey Badger going to be on the Moira, so neither the Mercy nor the Anna, which is the usual that you see with a bunker of this composition, with this setup. So sacrificing the Nano and the Anti and the Sleep Dart, and also with the Mercy, the Res and the damage boost, in favor of just burst healing output. There's going to be so much sustainability coming from the side of New England Whalers, and Turbulence with this Reaper Doomfist setup. I don't think they're really going to be able to get through this choke without just being absolutely mown down. Potato is definitely going to be looking for a little bit of Bastion bullet hell as they come through these gates, and it's going to be a little bit of an attempt to just pull them all. The Maywall does come out, doesn't find anyone, but forces a little bit of a just wait around as Turbulence try to find any sort of way. There goes the Maywall. That one is a lot better, managed to separate, but there's going to be no commitment on the side of New England Whalers. So it's just going to be Turbulence, a little bit delayed, managing to get into this side, but New England Whalers pull back just a little bit further and set up on this bridge so that they can try and just take Turbulence out as they come through. The Hulk comes in, the follow-up is there, Noro out of the fight early. Not what you want to happen if you're Turbulence. Your main tank is down. Vanguard is going to be on the Sigma, and they're going to just try and disengage completely without losing anyone else, but Air gets taken out late in that fight by Potato, so a stagger onto the Reaper. Once again, Turbulence waiting around, trying to just get through this first chokehold. Noro actually going to swap onto this Winston. The 100 HP shield buff has come in, so you do have to remember that. And Vanguard, the D.Va defense matrix has been buffed. Not quite to its former glory, but it has gone pretty strong once more. So they're going to really commit to this dive. The Winston, the D.Va, the Genji, air onto the Sombra, the main target is definitely going to be Zorus. If you can get the Batiste out of the fight, then you guarantee that immortality field is gone, but it's actually going to be the hack coming onto Solar, which is the initiation, and manages to get the pick onto Potato, Vanguard onto the Orisa, but Solar gets the trade onto Air. The Coalescence comes in, that's going to be Tony popping that one, trying to keep the team alive. They're managing to get the pick onto Biz. Zorus does have this Batiste amplification matrix, but I think at this point you just simply can't commit it. You've lost too many people. You want to hold on to it for point B to make sure that there isn't that snowball potential, and all of the picks coming through on the side of Torbulance, and I'm just wondering why they didn't switch to this dive composition earlier, because it's worked out so well for them. Noro is going to have the primal, but Winston dive just simply isn't as viable as it is on point A, on point B on Anubis, and so whether they're going to go with this, they're going to properly commit this, probably try and put in a couple of ultimates, see if they can find any sort of value, and then swap back to this composition that they were running previously. Solar does have the Safe Flux, and Zorus, remember, does still have this Amplification Matrix, didn't put it into that point contest, so they do have ultimates to New England Whalers. Biz with this Blizzard as well, with a well-timed halt from Koreans that could really be feeling the pain for Torbulance, especially with Lure not quite able to hit that sign bar, but Isel is going to initiate with the Blade, looks for it, the Blizzard comes out almost immediately, but the Genji already gets the pick onto 2, make that 3, still counting. The Reaper out of the fight, Vanguard gets the pick onto the Orisa before the Superchargers can come in, and it's just Torbulance looking so strong on this point B. Gets the pick onto almost all of New England Wales, gets the pick onto absolutely all of them, in fact. The Batiste Amplification Matrix comes in, Potato rapes and teleports into that point, but unfortunately not going to be able to contest for long. The EMP comes out to make sure that there just isn't any way for New England Wales to be able to set up any sort of presence on this point. The Sign Barrier is well committed. There's so much sustainability for Torbulance, and New England Whalers, they simply can't find any sort of way to dislodge them, and that's going to be a lightning fast point B take on Anubis. 3 minutes 40 in the bank. All Torbulance have to do is get this initial tick onto point A of Anubis, and I'm really hoping that they initiate with this dive. It's worked out so well for them before. It takes out all of this waiting around in the side rooms. You just go in main, you just dive that little bit of the high ground, you commit your Winston, you commit your Diva, you trust in your supports to keep you up and alive. You bring, say, the Genji, the Sombra with you. That definitely worked out for you the last time. And if you're New England Whalers, what do? Do you go into this expecting that there's going to be a Sombra dive, or do you go into this expecting that it's going to be this Sig Ori composition that Turbulence have been running before? But Noro is going to be onto this Winston, so it looks as if they've learnt their lesson. They are only the second map in, so it's definitely not too late for these guys. They can still start pulling this back. And with the way that they set that lightning fast breakneck speed of an Anubis take the previous round, surely they're looking for pretty much the same thing this round. We're going to see Isel going onto this Farah. Don't know whether it's going to be permanent or whether they're going to just swap this off after Ez had a little bit of a scout around. Potato going to go on to this Reaper, so they're not going to go for this Bastion defense, New England Whalers. They're going to just have this Mei and this Reaper. Potato's probably going to just be looking for a little bit of a flank onto the supports. Lure onto the Lucio, and unfortunately Torbulance, they seemed as if they wanted to go for this dive, but then they switch back to the Sigma Orisa. They do have 3 minutes 24 to dabble around with it, see if they can find any sort of value, but I really do hope that they're going to be swapping back to dive. The Lucio does manage to speed boost them all into that side room, but once again, New England Whalers just pulling back to this bridge, playing a little further back, going to start properly trying to commit a sort of attack as soon as Turbulence decide to go into this choke. Gets the Maywall perfectly timed. Are they going to be able to capitalize on it? The Orisa and Reaper out on the field alone. Ed does go down. New England Dwellers, the advantage in numbers is on their side. They're going to probably be trying to move into this. The kills are just coming in, red through the kill feed. And if you're the Torbulance, what do? You've already lost 2, make that 3. You're going to just be trying to pull back to disengage cleanly. You only need the 1 tick. You are burning time off the bank. 2 minutes 36, already almost a minute gone. And they've only got a Coalescence to show for it. Tony does, however, have that one. It's going to come out right now. All of New England Wills grouped up on the point. Both these Moiras crossing the beams. It's going to be Noro a little bit out and alone on the field, but the team does manage to come in on time. Back the Orisa up before you can get punched for that one. It's going to be a little bit of a scuffle as all of these teams just try and find any sort of opening pick to swing the team fight in their advantage, but it's going to be Air and Isel, these two DPS on the side of Turbulence, opening things up for the team. Potato managed to get the death blossom, but he actually gets stunned out of it. So's gonna go for a little bit of the saving play of the Flux, but you do have the sound barrier coming up for Zorus as well, but unfortunately he gets taken out of the fight. The sound barrier comes in, but it's just not enough to save the team. There's a ham and a hamster rolling around on the point, but it's just not going to be enough, and it's going to be Torbulance managing to tie things up. 1 versus 1. We have a series on our hands, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to what exactly these teams throw at us on this next map, especially if Torbulance are going to just commit to this dive that's really been working out for them well so far. And New England Whalers, they seem so dominant on this pharmacy, but they don't really run with the pharmacy on Anubis. And they get a little bit punished for it. They try running this Bastion, they try running this Reaper, and it doesn't quite pay off for them. It's experimental, but when you're in the losers bracket and you're trying to claw your way back into the winners bracket, the question is, can you really afford experiments, or do you go with something that is tried and tested and you know you've already taken one map off with? Well, folks, once again, new map means new glass of water for me to down, so we will be right back. I hope you join us after the break. Okay. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Overwatch All-Stars Season Brawl 3. I'm your color caster, and today's play-by-play caster got Moxie. A little bit of a strange shoes to fill, but hey, it's definitely an experience and one that I can't say I'm not enjoying. It's Torbulance versus the New England Whalers. Both of these teams are tied up 1 apiece, with the Torbulance getting to choose to ban 1 map after taking the victory on Temple of Anubis, and it's going to be Dorado that they're banning, a map that you can play Farah on. So once again, they're trying to kind of nip this pharmacy from the side of New England Whalers in the bud, perhaps not with the counter picks, but just with these map choices. It's going to be New England Whalers, however, getting the map choice thrown over to them as they came out of the Temple of Anubis in the defeat screen, and it looks as if we're headed off to Lijiang Tower, a map which, unfortunately, pharmacy is again quite viable. Looking through the map pool that we have available for those two teams, it is quite favored with the pharmacy. I'm not complaining. Torbulance might be, but I'm a fanatic of the pharmacy, as one of my co-casters, Sir Waltham, would describe. We love to see the pharmacy come out to play, especially on that gardens map. If you can manage to get your forest set up around that tower, the pagoda, then you really do have so much cover, and you can just peek out and find all of the picks, especially as teams try and commit across that bridge, which 9 times out of 10 people still try to go across, even though this game is now almost 3 years old. And Farah has been out for so long, as well as Lucio and Orisa and all of these heroes who can get the environmentals, and people still go across the bridge. It's one of my pet peeves of Lijiang, but it's going to be Control Center that we're headed to first, so not quite as many opportunities for environmentals, but I don't know, with some of these guys, we might see a couple of those coming through just the same. This is a map where you do see a couple of meta picks coming through. Mei is most notably the hero DPS that we see quite commonly, where you win that first aggressive team fight, and then you really do get to just kind of set up outside your enemy's spawn door, letting them just come in 1 by 1, through that first choke, walling them up, separating them, and sending them back to spawn with an icicle through the forehead. It's going to be a couple of seconds before we get to see what these teams decide to lock in with. I'm hoping for a little bit of the Mei coming out. Potato on the Symmetra, not really trusting. It's probably just going to be to let his team get to that point a little bit faster. Isol on this Doomfist and Air on the Reaper. It's a sort of echo in the air today on these comm lines, because it's similar to, well, it's not similar, it's almost exactly what we've seen from these guys so far. Air gonna be swapping onto the Symmetra, probably likewise with Potato, just trying to get that initial teleporter to let the team touch. Lyra and Zorus, they're both gonna be trying to get these teams to get onto that point first. It's gonna be a race to that point with whoever gets to set up getting a huge advantage in the amount of cover that they're gonna be able to have, and it looks as if it's actually going to be Torbulance setting up on the point, with New England Wales actually going to be trying to set up in the white room. Biz getting the pick off onto Esol, though, really early on means such a huge advantage over the side of New England Whalers. And yes, Torbulance may be set up onto the point, but they're 5 versus 6 at the moment, and all New England Whalers have to do is really press W. And it seems as if this moment is exactly at hand. Air goes down as well, so now you're fighting 4 versus 6. Tony falling so low, trying to get this Coalescence up online and in time, but I don't think it's going to happen, and it's going to be Torbulance packaged and parceled back to their spawn doors by courtesy of New England Whalers. They just have to clear Vanguard and this Lucio, pesky Lucio, trying to just stall out as long as they can on that point, and it will indeed be New England Whalers getting this really aggressive positioning in that we see so many teams commonly do. Tony does have the Coalescence, but likewise Honey Badger, the counterpart, also has that online, and so it's going to be onto these Moiras to try and find any sort of advantage over the other with these two double-edged swords. Both come out almost at the same time. Vanguard a little bit in front of his counterpart to get that Flux online, so keep an eye on those Sigmas. They're going to be doing their damnedest to get those online as quickly as possible. It's going to be Esol who's going to be looking for the punch, but it's going to be Biz who commits the Meteor Strike. Doesn't find any pick, but Honey Badger gets the pick onto the Doomfist himself. If a Meteor Strike won't do it, the Moira right click certainly can. Air is going to get the pick onto Biz though. Korean's like going to commit the supercharges, so New England Wales perhaps feeling a little bit of pressure, especially now that Lure has popped that sign barrier and Nora plonked down the supercharges of his own. Air has got this Death Blossom, but Potato pulls the trigger first and finds so much value with his 3 picks and the supercharger and the Arista normal to boot. So much damage coming out of that Reaper. Potato really feeling the pressure for Torbulance right there, and it's gonna be Torbulance 61% that they're up against on this point, and they have to find some sort of opening. Tony has the Coalescence, and we have seen them try to use it to let the team go aggressively. They're gonna use it now, but Honey Badger once again matches the counterpart, mirrors the ultimate. Tony gets the pick onto Zora, so that is one sort of healing down from New England Whalers, one sort of DPS as well. It's gonna be Torbulance just trying to come in, take advantage of the numbers as they go. Maybe they're going to be able to flip this in. Definitely with Honey Badger going down. The flip surely going to be coming in any second now. Lure gets the pick onto Potato, but Potato did get the pick onto the Doomfist. But Tony cleans up the Sigma, and Vanguard gets the pick onto Korean Snack. It's just a little bit of a stall on the side of New England Whalers. 97% on the board, finishes at 99%. So last fight territory. If Torbulance lose any sort of team fight in the next engagements, they have essentially lost the map. No chance for the contest to come in. Esol does have this Meteor Strike, but who do you commit it onto? Do you go for the Moira and try and get the fade out of the way early so that you can definitely secure the kill? Or do you save it for an escape button? Esol is going to commit it now. It does come in, gets the Lucio, and gets this the Sigma with the follow-up strike. Esol just going absolutely nuts on this Doomfist. I don't think this guy has read the patch notes. Doom is supposed to be nerfed, but Esol is making this look simple. Biz does have this Meteor Strike of his own, and Koreans like the supercharges as well. Potato as well, definitely something to be wary of. This Daft Blossom, he's probably just going to be trying to drop from on high because Lure, he is approaching the sound barrier, but you do have this window of opportunity for this Reaper. It's going to be up to this Lucio to try and find where exactly New England Whalers are committing to. They're gonna come main. The superchargers are the first to come out, and actually it's gonna be New England Whalers trying to put in almost all of the ultimates that they have. The Reapers, it's not an echo in the room. Push Potato and Air pulling the ultimates at the same time, but Air is gonna find just a little bit more value, gets the pick onto the Lucio before Zorus can get that sign barrier online. And now if you're Torbulance, you have a little bit more sustain. You have Lure sitting on sound barrier, where Zorus is just a little bit of a ways away from it, and you do have to have this up because Solo does have this Flux ready to pull out. The Lucio sound barrier and the Flux sort of cancel each other out, so if you're the Sigma, you're definitely looking for the pick onto the Lucio, but the sound barrier comes out before the Flux, and now Solo is going to pop his ultimate, knows that that HP buff is going to be fading out of the way, and Zorus actually held on to his ultimate, so New England Whalers, they're going to have a little bit more sustain on their side, and it's definitely going to be now the time that they're properly trying to commit to this point. With 98% on for Torbulance, it's going to be a little bit of a contest in the overtime bar. The sound barrier comes out finally for Zorus, and there's just so much HP on the side of New England Whalers that if you're Torbulance, how do you manage to fight through this? All of this HP, all of this sustain, and wage your way back onto contesting this point. Lure is trying, just being that Lucio, that annoying little mosquito, just wrapping around all trying to keep out of line of sight, but it's just going to be New England Dwellers. So many of them on this point, and it's going to be Nora trying to just spin his little hamster heart out as all kills come in on the side of New England Dwellers. Biz has the Meteor Strike. He's going to commit it now. Korean Smack puts down the supercharges as a sort of just kind of making sure that you're definitely going to get all of the damage coming in, as Torbulance just quite aren't able to manage to secure that one. They seemed to pull it back. They seemed as if they'd found the answer to what New England Dwellers were throwing at them. It was a very close battle, 99 to 100. But at the last moment, New England Dwellers managed to pull it back. And now on the side of Gardens, you can see that we're going to get this instant swap. Potato going to be jumping back onto this Farah, and Air goes onto the McCree, thinks about it, and then it's almost as if he's shut down by the team, or just a bait for myself. Goes on to the Doomfist, but Isol, he's going to go onto the Farah, and I'm really hoping the guy sticks with the Farah longer than he stuck with it on Nepal. Because someone has to pressure Potato, and it's simply not going to be Air. Air is going to be having his hands full trying to get into the back line and just kind of knock around the supports that New England Dwellers are just going to be trying to keep alive and safe on point. This is actually going to be going for this Tracer, so this is the new Tracer. Your damage knockoff fall-off has indeed been reduced, so you have a little bit more rage. Air falling so low, but it's Isol who's really feeling the wrath of this Tracer. Biz looking up at the sky, not thinking about it falling on his head, but the Farah rockets most definitely on his scalp. Gets actually stunned and punched up by Air, and so dies 3% away from the first pulse bomb. However, he's still going to be quite happy because he's been a distraction. Look at me, I am a target, is essentially what that Tracer has been doing, and it's going to be New England Dwellers who get that beginning point percentage slowly ticking up for them. And if you're Turbulence, you have to find some sort of opening to try and just get this contest in, but how? You do have Isol getting closer and closer to this barrage, but once again, Business is being a pain in your backside, putting down so much damage on these pulse pistols, taking full advantage of this buff that you got and your damage fall off being reduced. And so the Tracer does get res, but goes down almost immediately after. Or rather, the res was cancelled by the Farah, so Isol finding all of the value at the moment. Gonna have the barrage, probably gonna try and land it into that one. Does indeed look for the opportunity, but gets taken out of the fight without finding any sort of value. And it's gonna be Potato who actually gets the pick onto Air with just the normal rocket launch and not needing to put in the ultimate. And it's gonna be New England Dwellers just keeping control of this point without really putting in that much. They put in the pulse, they put in the coalescence, and they did indeed put in the supercharges. So they put in a little bit, but now they can just sort of cycle through these ultimate. Saurus is gonna have this Falc. Solar is getting closer and closer to the Sigflux. And if you're Turbulence, you're not running a Lucio nor a Batiste, which means that you have no defensive support ultimate to try and counteract this one. The Valk is gonna come out pretty early from Lure, just trying to let the team get in, but that doesn't matter. Potato finds 4. The Farah just sets up and knocks them out of the pot, gets the pick onto the Mercy as well, and Tony gonna go for the quick reset, senses that fight is lost, and with 88% on the board, it's really looking quite grim for Turbulence. You do have Air who's ready with this Meteor Strike, so that's probably going to be popped just to let them get into the point, but Solar has been holding on to the Sigma Flux. The Sig-9 is a full possibility at this point. Isol trying to just get onto this point, contest for as long as possible. Vanguard does have this whole hug that's probably going to be put in as soon as the hug actually approaches that point. There it goes right now. They are managing to get the pick. Solar goes down, Flux not really finding any sort of value. Saurus on this Mercy, is he going to be able to manage to get any sort of res, or is he just going to try and disengage out of the fight with the Farah? Potato not really getting punished once again, just sort of being a little bit ignored, shifted to the side as Turbulence just go straight for the throat of the point, and now Tony has this coalescence. Air thinks about going with this Widow, but actually swaps onto the Tracer, probably trying to just get back to the point, let his team have the 6 versus 6 fair of the fairness of the fight, rather than being a little bit staggered out, the Widow a little bit slower, maybe sensing that New England Wales want to commit a little bit quicker. And it's going to be Potato building up to this barrage, but it's going to be Tony who actually opens things up with the coalescence. Honey Badger does have one of his own. There it comes out right now. Korean's back, gonna be probably putting down the supercharges almost immediately, and as soon as that happens, Noro is actually gonna answer first. So it's gonna be Turbulence just trying to keep a hold of this point, put in the supercharges, but New England Whalers almost just try and disengage completely from the fight, let the supercharges run that course, but Solar just not quite quick enough. They all get kind of pulled back into the fight that they don't really want to be in, and for good reason. All of the picks are going the way of Torbulance. They finally managed to sort of set on this point and keep this point, most definitely. Potato, however, does have this barrage and this pulse. Maybe you're going to try and land it into that tricky target of the Lucio. It's definitely high risk, high reward, because Lure is coming up to the sign barrier, and that would take it straight off of the table. Tony on this Moira means that no res opportunity with no mercy. But do you stick for the Lucio, or do you go for the more easier to hit but less value target of a tank? Potato is most definitely looking to try and land this barrage in. He's going for the same approach that he went in for the last one, but it looks as if he's actually going to go in through a window. Not even going to go in through a window, just going to go in through the back, but gets taken out of that early. Does get the pick off onto the Moira, though. So New England Dwellers, they are finding picks, but is Torbulance still holding on to this point for the time being? 3 versus 1, but as I say that, it's actually going to be New England Dwellers getting the flip onto it. Lure forced to just pull the sign barrier out, trying to get any sort of contest going for his team with 97% on the board. It's going to be a Death Blossom coming out on the side of Easel, but unfortunately it just doesn't manage to secure much of any kills. The res going to come in for Solar, so Sigma brought back into the fight, 82% to that Flux. Honey Badger does have this Coalescence as well, so there it comes out right of now. Solar getting closer and closer to the Flux. Lure already put in the sign barrier a little bit earlier, so they're not going to have anything to counter it. The Flux comes in. Children's are picked up, gets the Hammond, no contesting that. Lure taken out of the fight, and it is going to be New England Whalers pulling it out of the bag at the very last moment and securing Lijiang Tower. And I hate to be a little bit of a broken record spinning on repeat, but it feels like Turbulence just aren't really managing to lock down this pharmacy. They seem to think about having air go onto the tree, Isol going onto this Farah, sometimes even thinking about this Widowmaker, but then they never commit. And unfortunately, they're not dealing with the pharmacy, and at this level of play, you simply can't sleep on any sort of DPS, because you know if you ignore them, they're gonna find all of the value, and that is most certainly what Potato is gonna be doing. Now then, once again, new map means new glass of water for myself, drown my ragged throat in, so we will be right back after the break, folks. Hope to see you then. Welcome back, folks, to the Overwatch All-Stars Brawl Season 3. I'm your host with the most, Gut Muxy. I'm a little bit lonely and isolated right now. Unfortunately, my fellow co-caster couldn't quite be here, but we're making do. The color caster has stepped up to the plate and has become the solo caster. A little bit drunk on power at the moment, because it means that I just get to talk and no one is there to get me to shut up. So this is just going to be a little bit of fun for myself, honestly. It's definitely going to be weird when I have to suddenly stop talking to allow a play-by-play to start narrating exactly what's going to go on, but for now, it's just myself in the caster's nest. We're going to be headed off to Hollywood. It's definitely one of these interesting maps, and it also means that we're probably likely not going to be seeing another map if there is any sort of win going the way of New England Whalers, who are sitting currently 2-1 up in this series, it being the best of 3. And unfortunately, on hybrid maps, it's quite rare for any sort of draw to occur unless you get full hold on point A. And it's happened. We've seen in the past that it has indeed happened. It's happened both in tournaments and in quick play, and to myself in ladder when they decided to go with a Bastion and no one's in comms to be able to communicate how exactly to bring that DPS down. But it's probably not going to be happening in this series, especially with these guys, the communication channels running as deep as they are. Really a lot of team play going the ways of both of these guys, both New England Whalers and Torbulance, setting up some pretty sick plays, and I'm definitely looking forward to this. It's going to be one for the books. I'm sure that we're going to see this pharmacy coming out once more on the side of the New England Whalers. And if you're there are ways that you can still pull this back and win this map. And I hate to tell you how to play, but quite a lot of them, in fact 99%, involve picking the counters that you need to bring down this pharmacy, because you've tiptoed around committing to it, but you haven't properly just flung yourself into the deep end, committed to any sort of sniper that can permanently just clip this Pharah's wings. And Potato was finding so much free reign because of that fact. The Farah really just kind of going a little bit unnoticed and ignored, at least until that barrage is up and running, and then all of Torbulance remembering as they get sent back to spawn that there is indeed a threat hanging over their heads, and air on this Widowmaker, especially with Torbulance being on the side of the defense. I am happy to say that they have finally decided to commit to something that might actually pose some sort of proper threat to Potato and Esau on this Bastion as well. The skies are most certainly not going to be friendly today for Potato. At long last, Biz on this Sombra is probably going to be a little bit of a scout out, but with the bunker that Turbulence are running, they could indeed decide to stick with it and try to crack this defense open with the singular EMP and then just all rush in. Or it may be a scout to see whether Potato is going to be able to get away with exactly what he's been getting away with on the other maps, which is to say, murder. Absolute murder with all of these 4Ks coming out, and Potato is going to be on the Farah, but Egg gets the really nice early pickup onto Biz, and the res is going to come in. The Mercy not really pressured onto that one. It is out of the line of sight, so no pressure there, and the res is there, but that means that the res is currently off the table, and so if you get that pick onto Potato, it will be for a little bit permanent. Already 38% that first vision. Potato, the value has been a little bit diminished now, has to play quite carefully around how exactly he tries to boost up, especially with where he is just trying to spot out where this far is going to be, and you can't probably try and commit on to the Widowmaker, but as I say that, it's just going to be New England Whalers walking beneath the side of Torbulance, setting up on point. The contest finally comes through, but it's already almost one tick taken up. They do drop down. Potato 46% to this barrage, still trying to get this one up and online. ESO 43%, slowly going up for this Bastion. As I said that, very quickly hiking up, but Tony, it's going to be the one to get that glowing circle colored in first, and the Batista amplification will be online, and it is coming out now. It gets the pick onto Korean Stack. The vision actually gets committed on the side of air as well, so they are going to know all of the places that New England Whalers are going to be committing. Coalescence on the side of Honey Badger. This is a very strange fight with both of these teams losing a couple of people and maybe wanting to disengage but not quite being able to manage. Nora gets the pick off onto the the mirror of but it's going to be Potato. Once again, the Farah completely sort of a little bit left forgotten and managing to find all of the kills because of it. Biz was actually dueling air, so the Widow not able to put the Farah into their crosshairs, and Potato going to take full advantage of that one. And you do see this communication coming through from these teams, where if the Farah feels like the Widow poses a threat, they send that other DPS to sort of tag in for them, and it sort of feels passing the baton. Especially now with Biz actually jumping onto the Farah themselves, but gonna be taken out very quickly by air. So already the Superior Widow being a little bit established, and it's just gonna be air managing to have this high ground now is out of the way. Kind of just free reign over this gangway, managing to shoot down. Gonna use the submachine gun just a little bit as well, and it's gonna be Turbulence able to win that fight pretty easily, and Potato gonna be forced off this Farah. Respects the threat that air poses and gonna go for this pick of the Reaper, but Biz continues with this Widow because New England Dwellers, they know they're not gonna fall for this mistake that Turbulence had of not trying to counter the DPS that their enemy are running. They're gonna have Biz try to contest air, and they have to for any sort of progress to be made on this payload with the way that air is set up. Biz does find the pick onto Easel, so you do have this advantage, especially now the supercharge is being committed. Both sides going to be plonking those ones down, but it is gonna be Biz who manages to not get the pick. Air instead is going to secure that one, but Potato gets the pick onto the Lucio. Solar as well gets that pick onto the supercharges, and Biz going to get that revenge kill onto Air. So a little bit of just desserts for the Widowmaker there. Biz as well, now that the threat is gone, able to set up on that gangplank that we saw just reign supreme over. Aerial superiority has not been established at this moment. It is Biz's world, the Biz show right now, and he is most definitely up and running for business. Am I going to run out of puns to do with this guy's name? Probably, most definitely, but it will be. Another engagement coming in. Esol is probably just going to try and initiate with this Meteor Strike, but Honey Badger does have this Coalescence, the sort of crutch for New England Whalers to fall back onto if the going gets tougher, if they want to go aggro. The Coalescence not going to get popped now, but the Meteor Strike does indeed come in. It goes down onto the roof, not going to find any sort of pick, but Biz is the one to open it up for his team. Coalescence follows very quickly after, and it's going to be all of Turbulence and a little bit of a Riz as they try to just disengage as quickly and cleanly as possible, but Potato going to be picking up 2 kills towards the tail end of that fight, making sure that Turbulence not going to get that clean disengagement that they've so wanted. And now it's going to be a little bit of a very quick contest on this payload, extremely quickly, given that Potato just death blossomed and took out both of the ultimates. He still does get a little bit of a revenge pick onto the support of Zorus, but it is going to be New England Whalers picking up this point. Biz dies with the vision up. I do think, does he get the long spawn? No, he's quite lucky. Doesn't get the long spawn. Actually going to be swapping onto the Hanzo. Egg goes onto this Reaper, Esol onto the Doomfist. This sort of feels like Turbulence are pushing the panic button, that they feel like they're just not being able to get enough done on the picks that they had, and they're just falling back to this composition that they've been stubbornly sticking to before. Korean Stack is most definitely going to be making a world of pain for these guys. So much damage getting amplified by the supercharges, but it doesn't matter. Vanguard pops the flux, and it's the damage actually getting turned on its head, and it's New England Whalers who are going to be on the tail end of that one. Honey Badger puts in the Coalescence. They are managing to secure kills. They do have a little bit more sustain, and they're just jumping, swarming the side of Turbulence, who are just left a little bit in a panic as suddenly they're surrounded on all sides by this red team. Biz has this dragon as well, and they do manage to get the stagger onto Lure as well. Dies with the sign barrier up, so they do have ultimates. They are going to be able to come in and contest this. Biz is probably just going to put in this dragon to try and buy a little bit of time, maybe get it down one spawn door, predicting the way that Turbulence are going to be coming out of. He's holding on to it. Probably just going to put it straight down main at this point, especially with that Coalescence, means that Tony isn't able to fade out of the way. Could be absolutely catastrophic for the Moira, but Tony not going to go down to that one. They're holding on to the sound barrier, trying to just squeeze it for all it's worth, and it doesn't really matter. You don't need to commit it to the fight. Esol managing to get the picks in the usual way. Tony gets the pick off onto Potato as well, who does 1% away from the Death Blossom. If you're New England Whalers, you're hoping that your Reaper is going to get into this backline, maybe the high ground teleport up there unnoticed, but you do have Air already established and trying to just find a pick of his own with this Death Blossom. Coalescence comes out on the side of Honey Badger, as does the Death Blossom from Air, finds Potato, but Biz gets the normal arrow kill onto the head of that Reaper, and it's Honey Badger who uses the Coalescence, gets the supercharges out of the way. They're going to be holding onto the sign bar yet again. This Lucio doesn't like to invest these ultimates unless the going is absolutely necessary. That is 60 seconds, not minutes. That would definitely be one interesting payload map. 60 seconds now on the clock for New England Whalers, and they have to try and just come into this with a fresh round of ultimates. They do have the Flux, they do have the Dragon. They're coming up to the signed Supercharger as well, and the Death Blossom is up and online. And Lure still holding on to the Sound Barrier, playing in the back line, trying to just be away from his team so that he is up and alive to be able to hit the floor. The Dragon comes in, but it's Potato who's going to go down. Sound Barrier finally comes in, and it's at the exact moment that Solar decides to put his ultimate in. That is painful for the Sigma. Potato gets the pick onto Air, and it's slowly but surely seesawing in the way of New England Whalers. It's now a landslide as all of Torbulance just go under and just get sent back to spawn. Biz gonna get the pick onto Lure at the end as well. Korean Snack has the supercharges. Those are just going to go down onto that payload immediately as soon as Torbulance try and cobble together a defense. Yisrael does have this meteor strike. We've seen it turn the team fight around for his team before, but the Dragon coming across that payload is going to make it extremely difficult. Finds the Mercy though, but Sola gets that excretion pick onto the Reaper. Potato finding the pick onto Yisrael as well, and Torbulance, they seem like they just can't quite manage to hold on for long enough, and it will be New England Whalers picking up all 3 of the points if in overtime. And I do hate to say it, and I really do, because you see teams and you see them managing to find defensive holds, and you see them managing to break through with aggressive pushes and through the compositions that they're running. And they forced New England Whalers off this pharmacy, which is a feat that they haven't, as of yet, managed to accomplish up until this map. Both on Anubis and Nepal, Potato was free to play the Pharah until he so chose not to. But Turbulence, they managed to lock that duo down with Air on this Widowmaker, but then they seem to sort of give up after Air gets beaten in the Widowmaker battle against Biz just a couple of times. And Air was winning a couple of them. He won, I do believe, 2, and Biz got 2, and it was very close between these 2 Widows. And then it's almost as if once again they push this panic button and just kind of devolve back into what they've been playing previously, what perhaps they've practiced before, as much as we saw like this double shield being so prolific in the meta. And it's not nice to see, because you see potential that they have when they run the dive, when they run the Widowmaker. You see them getting value for the picks, and then they just panic and go back to something that just isn't really finding them as large a foothold as their previous composition. They will, however, be running Noro on Winston and Vanguard on this D.Va, so they're going to commit to this dive that we saw a little bit of in Anubis. And it worked out for them there, and they're most definitely hoping that it works out for them in Hollywood. They have to win this map, they have to get all 3 of these points, and they have to pick it up with a little bit of time to spare if they want to have any sort of chance of staying in this competition. And it's going to be Potato on the Reaper, actually, so not the Pharah. Probably was expecting a little bit of counter Pharah play to come out from the side of Turbulence once more. So a present supplies for Potato. Maybe he'll die and swap back onto the Pharah, but it's going to be both of these teams now properly engaging. A little bit of a fight, not quite onto the point. Turbulence trying to just come in. He's still trying to open it up for the team with that rocket punch in. Not going to find much of anything though. Quick grasp for Solar, trying to just eat those abilities, get a little bit of shielding, but it's going to be Biz who goes down to Air, and so you do have this advantage of numbers, especially with Tony coming up to this Coalescence before Honey Badger, but neither of these Moiras actually deciding to pop their ultimates. Zorus gets the pick onto the Reaper, and Honey Badger just kind of a little bit staggered out and alone in no man's, just in the backline, seemingly trying to 1 versus 2 a Lucio and a Doomfist. And I know that Moiras can get away with the 1v1 sometimes, but perhaps not with the latest nerf and the self-healing from Moira being just a little bit lower than it used to be. And now Turbulence, they're just gonna try and set up indeed on this main road, make sure that New England Dwellers are limited in where exactly they decide to put their defensive shields. And it's gonna be Issa once again punching in, trying to find any sort of pick, not gonna find anything, but does actually pressure both of these Moiras enough to put in the Coalescence. Meteor Strike put in. Is it going to find anything? Looks like he's going for the Arista. Does manage to get a little bit of a hit, but doesn't quite confirm the kill. And Solar coming up to this Flux. Going to be there before Lure gets the Sign Barrier online. And so that's going to be Turbulence. A little bit picked up, a little bit chucked onto the ground, but no kills once again coming out. Lure going to be plunking in the Sign Barrier. Not really managing to find any sort of kills these guys, but as I say that, Potato gonna prove me wrong. Gets the quick free K with that Death Blossom. This guy has been an absolute monster on the DPS heroes, and Turbulence, they just really don't seem to like to play this counter game. If there's a Reaper going on, it's rare that we see it, but McCree is usually the answer. That flashbang pulls him out of the ultimate, and if you see him teleport, then you just kind of flashbang towards him and then right click. It's gonna be Honey Badger and Tony crossing the streams. Once again, both of these Moiras popping ultimates. Nora are gonna be putting in the supercharges, but again, they get taken out pretty quickly early on in the fight, so not a value on that one. Biz stunned up, manages to get out and gets the pick onto the Moira. So this is absolutely huge advantage for New England, New England Whalers, managing to get the picks again onto the Blues, just sending them back to spawn. These poor aggressors just trying to come in and unfortunately just not quite managing to find the picks that they need, and that just isn't happening for New England Whalers, who are just finding seemingly all of the value as Torbulance try and come into the point, try and get the toes on the payload, only to be sent to spawn once again. It's going to be once more Nisco trying to open it up with this punch. This is apparently the green light for the team, but it's going to be Biz who tries to put that meteor strike in. Look, gets the pick onto the Doomfist though, doesn't manage to find anything with his strike, and it's Esol who's going to try and find something, gets the Sigma into a wall. That is going to be both of, again, these Moiras managing to build Coalescence up like no tomorrow. Are going to be pulling the Q onto that one, going to be finding the pick onto the Lucio. Esol manages to get the punch onto the Orisa, and Lur still sitting on the sign barrier. I feel like this is an absolute echo in the room at this moment, a little sort of bit of deja vu, because this literally does like to hold on to these sign barriers, but for this time it's for good reason. Solar has been this flux is ready and up and available to the Sigma, and surely if you're new, you can get a contestant time. The supercharges come in, the flux comes out, but it is for Vanguard, and it's going to be Potato who tries to find a little bit of value, take advantage of the Sigma being up in the sky, means that no distraction with that shift ability, no chance of your damage being eaten, but doesn't manage to find anything, and the kills are going in the way of Torbulance, who seem as if they've finally been able to break through this defense that New England Whalers have been putting up, and Lur getting the pick off onto Honey Badger with the melee. It feels a little bit more personal now. Noro gonna be having these supercharges, the only ultimate up and online for either of these two teams. So that one small circle, it's a lonely world right now, but it does give you a little bit of an advantage, especially with being used the way that we're seeing them currently, to just kind of initiate the fight. Noro being a little bit further back, kind of playing behind the payload, no one really wanting to get picked out of the fight early, especially not your main tank. Honey Badger does have the Coalescence now though to try and counter all of the damage coming in from the supercharges, but likewise Tony got that stream going of his own, and it's just gonna be all of New England Whalers just trying to find a little bit of damage as Turbans try and just get around this final corner. They can see the finish line, that square rectangle, but it's gonna be Air who's trying to go into the back line, goes for a little bit of a sneaky play, gets the Death Blossom and doesn't find anything other than the hand of Solo, who's just gonna absorb all of that damage, but it's just teetering on a knife's edge. But as I say that, it's an absolute slam dunk on this, as Turbulence, they managed to break through, find all of the kills, an absolute wash in the kill feed, a little bit of a flash flood of blue, and New England Whalers that's kind of scrambling, trying to get that in time. It's the Orisa and the Sigma who are in charge. The Doomfist manages to get the touch in. Zorus does have the sign barrier, but Lure is quickly approaching one of his own, and there's going to be so much sustain on the side of Turbulence when that comes online. They need it. It does come online in the absolute nick of time as the bodies hit the ground on the side of Solar's Flex. The Lucio manages to get the team out of jail for free with that ultimate, and it will be Torbulence managing to push this payload all the way through these 3 points, and most importantly, with 1 minute 21 remaining in the bank. So it's a sort of Temple of Anubis similar situation. One tick is needed on this point A if Turbulence are able to claim Hollywood. And now this is when we're going to be seeing New England Whalers probably revert to this Bastion bunker strategy that we're seeing a couple of teams try to get this full hold, where you do see teams, because you have to build up ultimates to be able to break it. You have to be able to have the Sombra EMP up. You have to be able to have something to open up a fight, say a Coalescence or an EMP or a Diva Bomb. Just to chuck into where that Bastion is and just kind of spook him enough to get him to start moving away. Because when he's in that sentry mode is when he is the most vulnerable, and then you all just kind of swarm him like a pack of ravenous wolves who just smell the free food buffet. Is essentially what I like to see Bastions going down to in the middle of EMP. And it's not gonna be this Bastion bunker. It's gonna be Potato on the Reaper, Biz on the Doomfist Korean Snack. On this Orisa, they are going for the Sigma Orisa shield. Likewise, Torbulance actually gonna be opting for a mirror, and both of these two teams fielding apps are actually the exact same. So it's just gonna be the old-fashioned mirror matchup. Gonna be Torbulance trying to find a footing on the point pretty early. They have 1 minute, so they do have to find anything in this opening, and then they have maybe a second fight to try and cobble together. Lurd does get the pick onto Honey Badger, which is huge opportunity for his team. Isel again the follow-up pick onto the Sigma, but Noro is out of the fight. However, your spawn is just a little bit closer. You should be able to get back into the fight, and it is going seemingly the way of Torbulance, who managed to be finding all of the kills. You actually see the swap from Sigma onto the Hammond as Solar tries to get back onto the point in time for a contest to be made, but it's just going all of the way for Torbulance at the moment. Solar managed to get that touch onto the point, but it doesn't matter, and it's going to be Torbulance tying us up. Neither of these two teams want to go home. Neither of these guys want me to stop talking. It's 2-2, and we're definitely in for one amazing final match as both of these teams pull out all the stops as they try and stay in this competition. We're seeing an amazing play from a Potato here, that beautiful free K with then the follow-up pick onto the Orisa, managing to find all of the value in the... Don't see it, sometimes Reaper can be quite easily countered, but we are actually seeing not as often as it used to be, but the Beyblade seeming to become that much more of a threat, similar to the way it used to be when Overwatch first came out. And with that, I'm going to take a very quick break. I'm going to have a little bit of how many glasses of water can I pump down my throat in 10 seconds. And so with that, we will be right back. Well, that was short and sweet, which is the absolute opposite of what this series has been. Both of these two teams going for each other's throats, gonna be tying us up 2-2. We've seen so many compositions come out. We've seen the dive, we've seen the tracer, we've seen the pharmacy, we've even seen a little bit of the good old-fashioned Widowmaker off on Hollywood. And I'm excited to say that there is yet more to come. There is one more map that these two teams have to fight it out over, and whoever manages to stand atop the pile of corpses of the enemy team after this one, lovely image as that is going to be the victor of today's series and is going to be progressing as we go into the remaining matches of this losers bracket, trying to claw their way back into that winners bracket. And it's definitely going to be one for the books, because we're seeing Torbulance now sort of, they seem to have locked down what exactly New England Whalers have had as that sort of backbone on their defenses, on their aggressive offenses. And Torbulance, they're most definitely seeming like they're a little bit more eager to experiment, a little bit less stubbornly sticking with this Orisa Sigma Doomfist Reaper, which unfortunately to say, you just simply can't play as you used to a couple of days ago. The patch may have only come through Tuesday, as in yesterday. I don't think it's even been out fully for a day, but the Doomfist nerfs, the reduction of the shields that you receive upon your punches being landed, the increase in that charge up on the rocket punch. It really does force you to play Doomfist quite cannily now. And before, indeed, you could just kind of go in, get the pick, and then get out. And now, if you try and just get in and punch in as an opener, you do have to spend just a little bit more time either behind your team or behind the enemy team's backline, and that can be quite a risky play. The Reaper, not really any changes coming through for the Reaper, but people seem to have sort of cottoned on to how to deal with with that particular DPS. If you see him, it becomes quite obvious when he's trying to ult. He either teleports onto a high ground and then drops down, or he just rafes in, and we're seeing the Sigma sort of get this kind of clamp down onto when to use this shift ability to just eat all of the damage, sort of similar to the way that we see D.Va's defense matrix in the days of old, or as I say, of the future, as D.Va's defense matrix has been pushed a little bit back to what it used to be. It's going to be Torbulance in the blue, New England Whalers in the red. Once more, these two teams have not swapped around, so it's with relief that I don't have to worry about that particular one. It's going to be Potato on this Pharah. It's definitely something that can work on a Volskaya attack point A, perhaps not point B, because similar to how Anubis is set up, there are only a couple of lanes that you can really find the Pharah going through, unless you decide to go for those really long flanks, which can be quite high risk, quite high reward, because if you do commit to them, it takes a bit of time, and if you don't find the picks, then you do burn quite a lot off your bank. But if you do manage to get them to land, then it is quite valuable. But as opposed to the point A, the Pharah can take that left flank, that right flank. You can just kind of slide over the roof the way that you do, because, you know, you can fly. You essentially just have a jetpack, and it's going to be Potato once again. The Pharah and Torbulance, I really hope that they would have expected it. They do have Vanguard on this D.Va, so maybe that's going to be the allocated Pharah counter on their side. But they're actually, yeah, there we go. Vanguard going to just be boosting into the side of Potato, trying to spook the Pharah a little bit, and it's just going to be Torbulance pulling a little bit back to point, but Potato, a little bit unencumbered, does manage to get taken out of the fight by Vanguard, but the rest does come in, and already 60% almost does manage to almost clinch this barrage from this first engagement. Rockets all the way up to 92% ultimate meter. Tony does have this Coalescence. It gets popped pretty early, just trying to get this pharmacy out of the sky. They do know it's quite a big threat hanging over their head. The barrage comes out, but it's really nicely defense matrix from Vanguard. Unfortunately, that does run out, and the D.Va will be taken out of the fight, but it is a sacrifice. Unfortunately, not quite the sacrifice that Turbulence wanted, because it will be New England Whalers taking up residency on this point, managing to get a pretty quick take on Volskaya point A, and now they have this Coalescence to allow them to go aggressively, and Business Dragon to make sure that they can kind of separate and split off Turbulence into go in the direction that they so desire as they try and approach point B. And Air is actually going to swap onto this Widowmaker, so they do acknowledge the threat that is Potato. They are going to try and get once more the second counter onto this Pharah, but again it feels just a little bit too late, a little bit disingenuous, a little bit like they sort of don't really want to properly commit to this, and they're definitely going to be punished for that. Korean Snack is most definitely going to punish Noro, though. That Orisa out of the fight means one main tank gone for Turbulence. Make that one mecha gone for Turbulence. There's going to be New England Whalers getting really quick picks, trying to take this point B quite decisively. Ed does manage to get the pick onto Potato, but Solar gets the rock onto Esol, and Zorus maybe going to be able to get that res onto the... Definitely going to be trying to look, especially with Potato so close to the barrage, but does get picked off by Air. And so Turbulence managing to find the foothold that they so desperately need. 4 minutes 36 on the clock is just too quick a time for any team to be able to take Volskaya. And New England Whalers, they seem as if they're trying to just get out with as many members intact as they possibly can. The Lucio Lure does try and get a little bit of a stagger, but it's gonna be no staggers there. Honey Badger gets out, does go a little bit aggressively, perhaps could have been punished. Maybe chase down a little bit, but you don't really want to properly commit outside of the gates. And so it's going to be New England Whalers taking a little bit of a lift, a little bit of a relaxing approach as Potato tries to figure out how exactly he's going to land this barrage, but it's going to be the Flux that opens things out. Soundbar does come in, and it's Vanguard who picks up all of the kills for these two teams, and it's going to be Turbulence turning that fight around, which is something that you really don't want to see for New England Whalers. You sunk your Flux into that one, and that's going to be an ultimate that you're not going to be getting back for quite a while. With 3 minutes 40 on the clock, Turbulence seem as if they've really found a way to hold on to this defense that they've established. Potato, it's going to be very hard for them to set up this barrage. I talked about it a little bit earlier. You do know where the Spara is going to be coming from. It's a lot harder to be able to go for that stealthy flank where you don't really know where she's going to be dropping down. Air, however, has swapped off the Widowmaker onto the Tracer, so there is going to be less threat in the sky for this Farah to face. But Noro does have the supercharges, and Tony is going to be coming up to the Coalescence, maybe pop just to try and dissuade Potato from coming in. But it's the Dragons that actually comes out first on the side of New England Whalers. Doesn't find anything apart from splitting the team of Torbulance, a sort of separate, divide and conquer approach, if you will, but hasn't really found any value. Potato dropping a little bit high, manages to try and find some sort of area for the barrage, doesn't actually manage to find anything other than a mech, and with Esol getting the pick onto the Mercy, you do have Turbulence clawing this back, even though it was New England Whalers put in the ultimates that they so desperately tried to use to capture that point B, but they just can't quite manage to secure the kills that they need, and it will be Turbulence 2 minutes 27 on this clock, holding on to point B, going very aggro, very aggressively, getting the stagger off onto Korean Snack. And now if you're Zorus, do you try and get this res onto the Orisa, or do you just wait for them to be spawned in the traditional way? The res will not be committed. It is quite a risk going for that one. You might have been halted away. Air does have this pulse bomb, sneaking around a little bit, having one versus Biz, but going to actually just disengage, get back to the team, trying to find some sort of opportunity to just put that one in. Potato trying to find again these angles, these rockets, but Honey Badger is going to be the one who's probably going to be the most impact at the moment for the team, going to be sitting on this Coalescence, and it has just run out for Tony. So there is going to be a little bit more sustain on the side of New England Whalers up and available, but Solo going to put in the flex as Lure manages to get that sound barrier online. So once again, those two ultimates kind of cancelling each other out. That is what you see happening. The Lucio Sigma standoff is one that's very similar to the Zen Genji standoff with the Transcendence and the Blade. They're going to get the stagger onto Solo on Sigma as well, but Potato coming up to this barrage. However, 1 minute 10 in the time bank for New England Whalers, and what was looking to be a very quick take of Volskaya of those 2 points is actually looking to be quite a rough ride for this team as they try and just find anything that's going to let them just break through this frontline defense that Turbulence have seamlessly just managed to hold on to. Nora with these supercharges and Esol with this Meteor Strike, and Tony again with this Coalescence going to make it even harder for New England Whalers to be able to find any sort of opening, especially when you just swap your Pharaoh onto this Reaper who's definitely not going to have any ultimate meter built up. Coalescence is being crossed in the streams, both of these Moiras trying to DPS and heal their team at the same time. The supercharge is committed on the side of Noro, meaning that the only ultimate is up for Esol, that Meteor Strike. It comes in as I say this, a little bit of a parroting happening there. Not going to find anyone, but it does allow Esol to get this high ground. He's going to slam, tries to look for the punch. Potato tries to teleport in and just finds the only thing of Esol's just punch in the face, gets sent a little bit packing, and will be Zorus once again a little bit sent back to spawn, not able to get away from that Doomfist. Doesn't matter if the nerfs have come in, Esol hasn't been reading the patch notes. Air gets taken out with the pulse bomb active, so one ultimate that you're not going to have, but Tracers do tend to get back into the fight pretty quickly with those very pesky blinks that can be quite annoying to stall this point out. However, New England Whalers seem as if they finally managed to break through the front line, and they're just slowly but surely disassembling all that Torbulance are trying to put in to contest this point. Air is back on the field, so the pulse bomb does come out, going to just be put onto the floor in front of the point, maybe trying to dissuade New England Whalers from wanting to be around that when the Coalescence is being thrown in by Tony. They're going to be coming back on with that sound barrier, getting online. If he can land it, he does manage to land it. There's going to be so much sustain on the side of Torbulance, and New England Whalers spawn is just so far away, and they only managed to pick up the 1 point of Volskaya. It looked so well done on that point A take. They had everything going the way that they wanted. The Farah just managing to find all of the value, not barrages, but just with the threat that Turbulence constantly had to be thinking of, constantly diverting resources into. And then it just absolutely fell apart on that Volskaya part B. And it seemed as if they were slowly but surely managing to pull it back towards the tail end of that overtime fight. But Turbulence, the spawn spot, is just so much closer than the attackers, and you do have that numbers advantage when you try and get those contests. And if you manage to get those ultimates, those sustain ultimates, the sound barrier, and add to the fire, then getting the picks with your DPS and tanks and even supports, then it really does put such an advantage into your pocket over the aggressors who were just trickling in slowly but surely one by one. And it's quite a sorry state of affairs when you're trying to get in to that contest bar with the overtime bar just dwindling down, and it's a despairing thing where you see that you have that point and then it just slowly but surely slips through your fingers. It's going to be Torbulance, though, managing to stave New England Whalers off, so they just need one tick of point B on Volskaya to be able to take home the series. And they're definitely going to be looking to close this map out with a bang, because surely they know they've had the lowdown on what New England Whalers are going to run. We've had a couple of maps. Both of these teams have sort of felt out what the other one is most comfortable. And unfortunately, Torbulance seem to have diverted back into this Sigma Orisa, which they're going to be trying to run with, and they're not actually going to be going into a Forest, so it might work a little bit better for them. It's going to be New England Whalers forced back to this point pretty early on, actually. They're still trying to get this opening, but you really do feel that Doomfist nerf. You don't get as much armor, and that charge time is crazy long now, and so you do have this sort of advantage going the side of New England Whalers. They managed to get the Doomfist out of the fight early. Are they going to be able to collapse onto the side of Turbos, who don't seem that eager to properly disengage? They're just going to be waiting around that bridge. They're going to come back in with the full team now. And once again, New England Whalers just pulling back to point, going towards this kind of HP pack, this room, where they're just kind of going to try and hunker up and maybe divert a little bit of line of sight from, avoid a little bit of damage. Both of these Moros popping the Coalescence, trying to keep the team alive, but it's not going to keep Biz alive for long. Vanguard picks up the pick onto that one. Easel trying to get this Muja Strike up and online. Nora gets the pick onto the Reaper, something that you don't normally tend to see happen in that matchup. Biz trying to just probably get back in time as he's just punching his way back from spawn. Lure gets the boop onto Solar. There is the Death Blossom coming out on the side of Air. Potato not going to be able to invest that one on his side, and it's just going to be a little bit of a stagger as we see New England Whalers trying and just stave Turbulence off for as long as possible, but it is a pretty quick take on point A, which is something that the defenders really did not want to see happening. However, they do have the advantage in the ultimate economy. They have 3 of these shiny circles colored in, and on the other side you do only have the supercharges up on online for Noro. They didn't put ultimates, as many ultimates in to that fight to try and keep a hold of that point as Turbulence did trying to take it. So now you have to win this fight as Torbulance try and come in for this approach. Try and collapse onto the Orisa, but the collapse doesn't come through, and it's going to be New England Whalers just trying to hold on, but it's going to be all of the picks coming in favor of Torbulance. It's just a wash of blue in this kill feed, and you can only watch and stare as slowly but surely this point percentage is just going to tick all the way up. And with that, it is going to be Torbulance taking the map, taking the series, taking not the reverse sweep, but almost the half reverse. The 4.5 reverse sweep. And it's definitely a well-deserved victory. Both of these two teams really did bring the A game, and Torbulance, they seemed like a completely different team when they weren't worried about this pharmacy that New England Whalers were running into them. And likewise, New England Whalers, they seem to be very reliant on this pharmacy. It was sort of the backbone of their DPS strategy, and without it being up and available and having as much free reign as it had previously, it sort of fell apart. But they did really good. They should most definitely be proud of what they achieved. They got very far in this tournament, and for that they can hold their heads high. And I'm learning now that I'm going to be joined in the booth in a little bit by Tony, one of the supports from the side of Torbulance, and I'm looking forward to knowing exactly what was going on in the head of this support, because I'm a support myself, and I do always enjoy talking to other supports, and especially after patches, sort of getting an idea of their opinion on whether the state of the game is. So that'll be Tony going to be joining me in the booth in just a little bit. Hello, Tony.
Hello.
Congratulations on the win. It was definitely well deserved, and I have to ask, the pharmacy. So you guys throughout the first couple of maps seemed a little bit dipping the toes in the water in countering that, kind of putting in a couple of efforts and then immediately swapping off. Was there anything that sort of changed in the maps where you turned it around and the pharmacy became less of a problem? Did you think that you did anything differently?
I don't know if it's so much as what we did differently, but like the map type. So the control map, the Pharaoh was able to just get the time, and we weren't like coordinating our dives like in the 2CP or the hybrids or any other map types. We can really like coordinate our attacks so that the Pharaoh has like a very small window to do damage. So that was the big contributing factor, more than like what we did specifically, or just our plans on those maps are better.
And I also have to ask, you sort of diverted back into this Sigma composition almost as a sort of panic button. I don't know if it's fair to say, but it's dive, and that worked out really well for you. And then sometimes you would try a couple of things, and then they wouldn't quite work out, and you would just kind of divert back into this. Is it because you feel a lot more comfortable on that when you sort of have practiced it a little bit more, or was there any sort of what was going on in comms at the moments that you swapped back to that?
You talk about revert back to Sigma Rissa?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a comfort pick and it works really well. It's the tried and true method with the Doom Reaper. So a lot of times when we picked that, yeah, but then Vanguard was feeling more comfortable in the Diva, like you saw on the last map when it comes to dealing with the Pharah. So with the changes, it was kind of like it is comfort for sure, but with the changes, it's harder for him to get used to it. It's a different. So as we were going on, we were figuring out that the Sigma wasn't doing what we needed to against the Pharah. So otherwise, yeah, it's just so good on certain, especially when it's like small chokes that you're going through. The shield's obviously gonna be really good, and then his ult's really strong for winning fights. So if those were enough to overcome us picking him as opposed to like Diva or Hog that we did, then that's what we went with.
And the patch, we have to talk about the patch. Like there's so much change coming to Overwatch, buffs and nerfs. You're a support player, and Moira got a little bit of a nerf. Do you think that makes her anywhere less viable than she has been, or do you think she's still going to be pretty up?
No, because if a Reaper's in your face, you're dead. It doesn't matter if you heal 50 heal per second, you know what I mean? So in the Doomfist, obviously one-shot you as well, so very, very rarely will you feel that difference. Only like when it boils down to like a 2v2 or 3v3 do you really start to notice that. The only way Moira I would ever see coming out of the meta is if Diva comes back into the meta where orbs always get eaten, so that's the only way I really see right now. Unless like the DPS completely change, but especially when Tracer getting a buff, then that means Ana is less likely to be played and more likely to be played. So in that case, that might actually become, if Tracer comes out more, then it's likely that nerf to Moira will be more noticed, but it still will mean that she'll be played over Ana regardless.
And your favorite support? I know a lot of people do like to play the Moira. Personally, I prefer the Ana, but at the moment I can't really play her, so I either have to go break when the Tracer comes out, or indeed Moira if there's like if our Zen is getting jumped on by a Doomfist. But is Moira your favorite supporter? Have you kind of been just kind of imprisoned in Moira jail?
Contrary to popular belief, I do enjoy Ana more, but when it comes to, I guess I'll caveat that, like just pure gameplay, I do enjoy Ana more, but whenever we're playing against like a Doom Reaper, like it's no fun to be a dead Ana. I'd rather be an alive more than dead Ana, you know what I mean? So it's more fun that way.
Yeah, and this is definitely a meta where the supports have to survive longer than the enemy supports. Do you have any secret to surviving longer than the Moira on the side of New England?
Yeah, I'm always yelling at my team to tell me where that Doom and the Reaper are if I can't see them, and I'm always listening for the Doom punch. That's the biggest thing, and then Doom punch, of course, the teleport, but that's a lot more time to react to that. You know what I mean? So those are my things for how I try and survive as much as possible, and not feel like I feel like people sometimes throw out too many damage orbs. That can be a trap to where the Reaper just gets on you and you're dead or whatnot. So that's what I try and do.
And I always like to ask people who come out of really hype games like this one, did you have a favorite moment of the match where you sort of happened to, oh my goodness, I just did that?
I enjoyed it whenever I was able to sleep the Nano Genji. That was probably for me. The team, of course, when we won, but yeah, that's for me when I enjoyed it the most, when I was able to make that happen.
I mean, ruining a Genji's blade is always the highlight of
Nano
every...
blade, much less, yeah.
That I think is what supports live for. The Zen, the Ana, just ruining other people's game.
Exactly.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and I have to ask, before you go, is there anything to say, any people that you would like to shout out in particular?
Yeah, our normal hit scan Snozzler is his graphics card is dead, so shout out to him. I hope it's going well and your remedy is coming soon.
Oh, of course, yeah, because you guys played with like your
Air, yeah.
right? Well, I mean, the good thing is probably not for the main support, but you couldn't tell. so maybe his a little bit of an open. After that one, it's been lovely to have you, lovely to talk to you. Always a pleasure to get insights on supports. That was Tony from the side of Team Torbulance. They will be moving forward to the next round of the losers bracket, trying to get their way back into the winners bracket. Unfortunately, or fortunately for my friend, as it's slowly but surely fading, my time with all you love fellows is sadly up. I would love to say that I wish it was longer. I think after this, I'm just gonna go grab about 6 glasses of water. And I mean, I agree with the viewers. It's not often that I agree with the viewers, but Potato is most definitely and deservedly the MVP. This guy was absolute nuts on every DPS that he touched, and he really did seem to win his team fights just off the back of his ultimates. In this day and age, it's really nice to be able to see a Pharah getting impact on the game, and so congratulations to Potato, commiserations to New England Whalers, congratulations to Turbulence. I have been your host, Got Moxie. You can follow me and stalk me on Twitter at GotMoxie. That is GotMoxie with 2 T's because someone already bagged the name, much to my chagrin. Good night, guys.